Yeah, but when I got up and melted the rubber, then the window shut because I went inside. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you were just like recently.
You know, because they're throwing, you know, you have
I originally
in the middle.
Where were you before that?
Good morning, guys. Can you hear us okay?
Okay.
I was ready to not.
Okay.
Oh, Kristen said, yeah.
Okay.
It's a trailer or something.
I haven't had to do it with yeah, I'll be back.
And then they brought it to an area and they had these boards set up.
You ready? Ready, I guess. All right, LEPC, start first form the song.
Yeah. And then it's
So,
from there, it was just.
welcome to the LEPC meeting for July 8, 2024. So, yeah, I getting a little bit of guff from people that I was not at the meeting here a little while ago. I was at the BNRC because they have a consulting group, Department of Natural Resources Conservation. They have a consulting group that's in from Oregon that's looking at doing a biomass feasibility study here. And what that means is they're looking at they have a couple of groups that they work with. What is TNC? Nature Conservancy, and a couple other ones out there that go out and they cut down this spur encroachment, Douglas fir encroachment, do some fire mitigation, that type of thing. And the point of this is to see if they can find out a usable resource for that material. So they're going to be doing this feasibility study here during this summer. They're doing site visits through the week. They're going to be looking at all the sawmills, probably at our landfill, and potential fire fuel reduction projects around here. So this kind of plays into, some of the mitigation stuff that we could and should be doing here at Beaverhead County. So I'm going to move on to this development that we've had here recently is after this ice jam flooding that we had over the winter. We keep having these ongoing conversations about, some of the new floodplain mapping that we did, which just happened prior to this, and how it really plays in with an ice jam. And you kind of throw a lot of these things out the window with an ice jam because it's quite a bit different in comparison to just a high water flow. So in talking to several people with DNRC and from State Disaster and Emergency Services, they came down here, paid us a visit. Rob and I had some really good discussions with them. I went out with 3 of the ladies and visited a whole bunch of these sites and properties, talking about some potential mitigation projects here. So here we are again. This is Interstate 15, just north of town. This would be the Lackner Lane area coming out here. This is where that ice jam started, somewhere kind of right. Well, it was probably actually down in here where it started building up, where we first got notified of it. I know we've been over this before, but it jammed up here, started pushing out over into this field, which, by the way, you see that it's not color coded. It's not in the floodplain. So, as this happened, this ice jam probably spread clear down into this area, and it ended up clear up into Lover's League. So we probably had, I don't know, a mile and a half slug of ice that was here. And thankfully, we didn't have too many problems with it. We had a house over here in this area where this jammed up and spread back over here, hit this lane. Also, at another time, it backed up over into this area and it found this old channel. It runs down over into here and ends up at a couple of houses. So with these Sarah Hartley from State Disaster and Emergency Services getting involved. We're gonna, they've, at their expense, have retained a contractor consultant that's coming in at the end of July. I think they're based out of Louisiana or something. And we're gonna look at some potential mitigation for this spot here to maybe make a bypass channel that goes around these houses, something of the sort. And while they're doing that, we're gonna look at several of these other things in here, such as kind of right below the bridge here, at Lackner Lane, there's kind of a little bit of a jag in the river, sort of like a little island where the ice starts to kind of build up. Kelly Rowe had another idea that part of the problem was that the ice got so high in here that it overtopped and it ran down this irrigation ditch. It overtopped the head gate, that is, ran down this irrigation ditch. So maybe part of this could be that we put in a really, some type of a really good seal, head gate over a culvert or something to prevent that water from, heading down the area and affecting these other houses.
Where's Schuler Lane on that?
Schuler Lane would be right here.
Okay, I'm just trying to find.
So again, one of the fears that we had and the decisions that we made when the river started coming out of the bank is, first of all, it hit this green line, this irrigation ditch here, and then it followed that ditch clear out into this area and started flooding some houses out into here. So we blocked that off with an excavator, then we put a line of big square bales along here to divert water back into the river channel. That of course didn't fully work. It because it found its way around it. But our fear was that if you dump the whole river channel out of here, then it's going to end up over here into all this floodplain area with hundreds of houses. So again, potential mitigation projects that they're going to get their geohazards, hydrologist people out here to look at. Along with that, one of the other projects that we looked at, if we go wait for the map to catch up.
Tom, what are the colors again?
So red is floodway, which
Okay.
is a no build zone. Blue is 100-year floodplain, and this greenish color is 500-year. What does that mean? What percent chance, Rob?
Oh, higher.
Our floodplain administrator?
200 years or something like that.
Something like that. So then we're looking on the south end of town here. This would be Highway 91 south. Hospital's right over here. This is the Black Creek. This is what's called the Dillon Canal that comes over from the Poindexter Slough over here. It runs irrigation water, but it runs some water year round, comes over here, meets the Blacktail Creek, adds to the flow right in here in this section going into town. Right downtown by the museum, the old railroad depot, Reeder Street, Railroad Street, there was a mitigation project that was funded by FEMA that was done probably, I don't know, in the neighborhood of 15 years ago now. They put 2 new bridges in down there to increase the water flows. So that's really we've really benefited from that project. This next one that we're looking at right now is kind of where this Dillon Canal comes into the Black Hill right here. There's Remington Acres subdivision is this one right here, where there's some houses that are, they're back right up against the stream. They're one of the issues right in here is the state highway department's bridge has a center stand in it. Then there was also a fence that was held right here, but both those obstructions give it a place for the ice to start building up, and then it's built up in here, and it's spread and it's affected these houses and structures here. It's almost came over the road. A few years before, we had some jamming that started kind of down in here and was starting to affect these houses in here. So again, possibly, because we never know about grant money, but at some point as this progresses, we would be asked to, as the county, to carry the application for these projects. And it should not be a financial obligation to Beaverhead County. However, it could be a financial obligation to some of the private landowners that are involved. So potentially what we could be looking at here is replacing this bridge, so it's a full span bridge, it does not have a center pillar in it, and doing some work to destroy, oh, it's already kind of destroyed, to restore this stream in this area so it functions. The channel is more concentrated. If you do that, you have more flows in there, so you lower the potential of it freezing. You put a little bit of a meander in it to kind of slow the velocity of it, and you build a bit of a floodplain, so if you do get high waters on it, it will spread out into that area. So the hope is that we can get up here into this area and do a mitigation project that is gonna protect this a lot more. Another piece that we looked at is you go down and it's probably this street right here, Clark Street. And keep in mind, the counties are state of Montana, I think it's state of Montana, isn't it? Counties are responsible for bridges, even if they're within a incorporated town, incorporated city. So this is within the city limits of Dillon. This bridge that goes back into pretty industrialized area of there's much a grain loadout scale and everything back here. So a big piece of economic benefit here to our community, obviously. And this is kind of a selected truck route that goes down off Atlantic Street and crosses two probably, I don't know, maybe they're 4-foot diameter culverts, and they're just laid by side, and you can see where the water's running right down the middle of. So, it's potentially, I mean, it's been there for a long, long time, but it's this set of culverts could potentially fail. So we're looking at possibly, I always say possibly, replacing these two culverts with a full span box culvert or bridge. And this would prevent some of this. We've had ice jamming and build up of debris out here because those two culverts don't have the capacity to flow the high flows of that stream. And again, it's a place for that ice to hang out. So we have had, some localized flooding down there. We don't know how much money is available, obviously, but according to Sarah Hartley from State BES, they have more money than they do applicants. So this is a good thing for us. So again, over here on Bannock Street, kind of right by Gracie's, there's another box culvert bridge or bridge with a pillar in it. And this could be another piece of that project. When they did the one about 15 years ago, it ended right at this point. And I think the funding kind of ended of how much they were gonna do with this bridge. But we've had some debris build up and jamming right there. So if we could get these two replaced, as doing this other big project, I mean, that would be big for us at Beaverhead County. Then we're on to number 3. Where's Travis's hometown at? Um, right there. There we are.
I see crops.
I can see crops.
So this is Junction Creek that runs through Lima here, kind of right along the railroad tracks. I think it was 1994. Is that right, Travis? 95. 95. They had some really bad flooding that came through here and caused a whole bunch of damage. This other blue area, blue being 100 year again, does not have constant flows in it, but it is another low area that this channel can split during the 100 year seasonal event, or of course ice jamming and run down this way. And if you look at this is right in the community. This could potentially affect a lot of homes. So they don't really, I don't think they really have too many answers of what they could do here yet. But they're gonna, as they're looking at these other projects, they're gonna come take a look at Lima too. And I think that's all I have on that. Is there any questions or comments on this part of it?
Anybody can access that app web that you're on?
This is linked, or it's a part of the site.
I did, okay, good.
This is some of the stuff that was, I don't think Beaverhead County paid anything for this, did we?
No.
I think it was FEMA money that comes into the state through DNRC, and they flew pretty much the whole county along, well, not all of it. It ends, what, at Beaverhead Rock, at Barrett's? No, Barrett's. Yeah. It starts at Beaverhead Rock, ends at Barrett Station, and then it covers the Blacktail Deer Creek going up about to the Matador, and then this area of Lima. But it was very, very expensive and detailed projects. They fly it with aircraft and use what's called LiDAR radar on it. It's a surface radar that penetrates through vegetation and everything, and then they have millions of data points put together, and they get the 100 year and 5 to figure out this mapping system, again divided up between the red, the blue, and the green. So notice, or take note of it rather, would be probably a better way to put it. There isn't a calculation on this. There's no way to do a calculation for an ice jam.
Look out the window, guys.
Yeah, because essentially what you're doing is you're putting a dam right in the middle of a river somewhere, right in a stream. So you know where it's gonna go. It's gonna go to the low spots, and it might potentially push up over a hill or something like that. Flood administrators as well as people from the state, FEMA, are not gonna put their name on something like that. But maybe back to mitigation. Maybe we can come up with a project that can prevent this from, or at least lessening it from happening again, and that's the whole here. So, any other questions or discussion?
Just other than, we also have a big old river from its confluence to Wisdom or Jackson.
Oh, right, with the last set. And a lot of that data, well, we didn't even have floodplain maps for some of that. So this has been greatly expanded, and the other data that we had was 82 or 83.
Yeah, it was 82.
I think it was 1982. So the accuracies of that technology at that time was pretty low. So next agenda item is Sue Hanson is retired. She was the chair of this committee. We need a new chair, and I think Katie has kind of mentioned that she would do that. Hopefully that's still true.
Else to do. I will.
Okay.
Is anybody that's like chomping at the bit? I mean, I also.
Unless there's somebody.
But I do the public health emergency preparedness.
So I think that it would be great to combine that stuff, because as this always worked with Sue, the deliverables that you have and that we have, and then a lot of the training are, there's a benefit to, they're pretty much the same.
I agree. No, I'm happy to do that.
And I have to I'll nominate Katie Cochran.
I'll second.
Who seconds? Stacy?
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
We've already done.
And
Did you make me that 9:30, that approval of minutes? That was the first agenda item.
thanks for reminding me. So we'll back up to that. We're gonna go back in time now. So we did have this approval of the last meeting minutes. I'm sure everybody's read those. Make a motion to approve those meeting minutes. Okay.
I'll second.
Thanks, Rob. So the meeting minutes of the May 6, 2020. Anything else before? Okay. So discussion on fire season and wildfire preparedness. BJ Closey is, I don't know if you call it a vacation, but he's in Florida as we speak, picking up our brand new city fire engine. So it's kind of a cool thing. And that was funded through, I think a lot of it was this economic recovery ARPA money. So again, the fire district and the city of Dillon is not paying for this. They pay to equip it, but this is a big deal for that fire department. This is really a city-only fire department, because Dillon Volunteer Fire consists of really two different organizations. It's Fire District 2 and it's the city of Dillon. However, we do have mutual aid agreements if we need to borrow stuff from one to the other. In other words, if we had a big fire that was in the county, we could use this equipment to go elsewhere within the county, or the district first, then the county. We are under really good mutual aid agreements with fire departments in this area. So that's a big deal. We also, due to BJ and some others' work, have it's not a brand new fire tender. It's a new rebuilt water tender. It's one of these Freightliner, what is it, M916 model 6x6 trucks that we get from Department of Defense. They decommission those. We get them really cheap. Some of the ones that we picked up only had 6, 10, 20,000 miles on them. I think some of the two older ones that we had 6, 7,000 miles on them was all. All we really had to do was put batteries in them, Then we've taken the trucks over and, well, we had a different contractor, one of our members on the fire department do a lot of work to a couple of them. This one, all the work was done over at the prison, so we do have to pay for a lot of the supplies and some pretty nominal fees on it, but I don't know what kind of money that they have in it. He didn't have a total for me yet, but some of the other ones, I think, have been in the range of $30,000 to $50,000 for a 2,000-gallon water tender. If you were to buy that on the open market, I mean, you might be talking $200,000 to $300,000. So again, another big advancement here. And as Dillon Fire is doing that with some of their other older equipment, we're selling it or gifting it to other fire departments out there. So, what else? So, looking at the weather, I think everybody's probably seen what the weather's gonna bring us here in the next week or probably 2 weeks, but especially this week, kind of all over the nation. California's on fire. The consultant that's doing this stuff for DMRC right now was saying that there was a bunch of stuff that broke out in Oregon today. We're talking about some 80 to 100-degree temperatures in the north here, so.
A dumpster fire over the weekend. Over at Grasshopper.
Firecrackers.
Yeah.
Fire.
Oh, that was.
Is that the one?
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, it caught an usher at Glen and it took, or not at Glen, at Mill Point, and it took off and around the hill. The conditions are there. I mean, we do have a fair amount of fine fuels out there. And once we come over that threshold of probably 80, 85 degrees, I mean, it's just,
And windy.
and wind, but if we get into
Yeah,
those
which happens when it
90s,
gets hot
100-degree temperatures, we all need to be on alert for that. Travi, any comments on that? Your situation down there? Okay, so
I mean,
where was your stuff?
we showed up the slides. I don't know if we want to look at them. Basically all I have is public information template from the state. It's got really good information that we can push out to the public on wildfire safety, especially clean indoor air. And then I also have a template for a school policy on smoke. If you would be interested in that, Randy. I know you guys already have what you do in case it's bad air quality. Just wanted to put those resources out there, let you guys know that I have them. I'm going to be working on some information to put out to the public. And
Are
I'm
they
happy to
on?
share.
Are they here on the screen somewhere?
I have them on flash drive.
Okay, we wanna look
I
at
can
that.
include an email when I
Okay,
send out for the next meeting, if that works.
okay. You know, if there's a reason for the group to look at them or?
Is there like a scale of
There
like how
is.
healthy it is,
Yes.
unhealthy it is when there's
Yes.
smoke in the air?
Yeah, I have a
That's
couple.
good to know.
Yeah, there's one specific for schools and another one for at-risk populations, and I believe like a regular one, so. And that is also on, I think that's online, is it DEQ or,
Air quality.
yeah. They have those scales up and that's where you can check their quality as well, so. I can make sure, I can send the link for that to Rochelle as well to include in the minutes and,
Okay,
and I'll include that with some of the public information that I push out to media.
okay. So I do the training and exercises down here as an agenda item on here, so, I've got a little stuff on earthquakes that we could start talking about here and kind of figure out a direction that we want to take to do some trainings here in the future. We're also pondering the idea through the emergency services rep, or what is she? Yeah, emergency services rep up at the hospital about potentially doing some kind of a larger scale, possibly active shooter training here in the future. And a couple of us, I don't think anybody else in this room, but Jeremy Alvarez and Fire Chief BJ Losi and myself attended this other big tabletop exercise up at the college with their new safety and security representative from there, who's ex-law enforcement from Lewis and Clark County, and I think city of Helena. And he's doing that services positions with University of Montana Western, College of Technology in Helena and Montana. So he's providing, some really good experience and level of training to this group of people, and kind of what it was is it's difficult in a lot of these organizations to really get a start on stuff like that because, let's face it, I mean, they're not all first responders. So presenting something like that and it being a sensitive topic is pretty difficult to really well. And it was part of the training at the college was to select certain people to do to take different roles if an incident like this were to ever happen. So that's kind of a difficult thing to overcome. And you're talking about some different levels of training here, or people that don't really have any experience or training to deal with something like this. But we could look at doing something like that here in the future. Let's hear something from the group.
I mean, I've done some active shooter trainings as a teacher in the past, and the school I was at decided to not do them without the students present because they did it on a kind of the day where
And that's
and
what I'm talking
basically
about,
because
being
it was too
sensitive.
traumatic for they felt for the especially little kids to go through a training like that. So they basically just have the teachers go through it, and I felt it was informative. I definitely been through a few of them, so it was definitely kind of a shock to have to go through that, but it was good training to know what to do in a situation like that. And then also I have done an earthquake drill as a teacher as well, and they're very different than fire drills. I mean, you don't run out of the building as soon as you feel it shaking because you can get hit by something. So if you hide, I mean, it definitely teaches you a little bit of a different way to deal with an earthquake versus a fire drill. So those are all valuable things for everyone to learn. At least have one training on both. I feel that way, but yeah.
Okay. Mr. Shipman, you add to that?
Well, as I've said here many times, I mean, we're always interested in anything like that. And
Do you have
in any way we
anything?
can help.
Do you have anything to assist with or work off of, or?
Well, no, not right now, but November 5th, I was just trying to look at my thing. November 5th, I mentioned to some of you before, November 5th, I think it is a Wednesday. And I agree with her about the kids. So or November 6th, I think it is. November 6th or February, it's 5th, Wednesdays, we have a half-day PIR for teachers. I think, Tom, I talked to you earlier a while ago, where we would send the kids home, but keep some of the, just keep some of the older kids that volunteered and parents were involved, and we would potentially be interested in doing something in that regard. Be it intruder, be it earthquake, be it mass casualty, where, like we did several years ago, where we had the hospital involved and even took kids up hazmat and all that stuff. I mean, we would potentially be interested in any variety of that. It's a huge undertaking.
It
with
is.
parents and stuff like that. So, one of those days, the afternoon, 1 to 3:45-ish would work better in terms of not having those little
Even,
kids
even
around.
if it's just kind of like a tabletop, top awareness type of thing, and then we can make a decision later if we want to do like an active drill.
Sure.
You know, because it is difficult. I mean, some of this stuff that we've done, like, I don't know, with ambulance and fire, we just kind of winged it because we never know how many people we're gonna get, but that can also play out in a real scenario too, that you don't know how many responders you're gonna get. So if you have a bunch of people show up, plan for that. If you only got a few, well then maybe there's kind of a real world experience to be learned from that too, that you get overwhelmed really fast.
But I haven't talked to Brenda yet. Brenda Berkeley's who, I was gonna let know. And Sue with Katie. Sue, Brenda and I have sort of been trying to work on it, but now Sue's getting out, so now you have dates.
Okay.
And I'll confirm those dates, Tom. I think that's right. And so one or the other, we'd be interested. The November one, we were real excited about last year, and quite frankly, it's sneaking up on us now. But November 6th is still a possibility, and that February, I believe it's the 5th.
Well, we could just go over some earthquake awareness or something like that. Start. Anybody want to look at some of that now while we got a little bit, or do we have any other discussion points here?
As far as the active shooter training, who did it up at the college? Was there a special team
Okay,
that
so,
comes in, or is it
so
the
we
county?
did not do like a live action training. It was a tabletop training that just had a script on a PowerPoint slideshow. Probably, I don't know, 5 years ago, they had another that was kind of, well, it was a really active training. And there was a couple city officers, neither one of them are here anymore. They've taken other jobs in other places, but one of them was, still in the National Guard. And Joe Horrocks was his name, and he did some of this with the Guard. And it was a really good training for those that wanted to go through it. However, there's a lot of people that were really intimidated by it and did not want to go through it. So I think a lesson to be learned from that was you kind of need to make it people's choices. Like if somebody really wants to take that intense, hands-on, kind of live action training that I've been through a couple of them, and one of them that we did with Disaster and Emergency Services did it with Billings Police Department in a hotel, and it was scary. I mean, it was live fire stuff with blanks. It was, some really graphic stuff, and I don't think that there would be a great benefit to go to that extent. Again, I keep saying that stuff is really sensitive because,
Yeah.
certain people are not gonna handle it well, let alone the children.
I know, like with teaching, the main thing they taught, we did do a physical exercise where we actually had the guy with all the pads on, and you have to try to, anyway, and some people opted out of that. But the other thing they did was just teach the teachers how to lock your room with whatever you have in that room to
Yeah.
keep the door from opening so that you keep the kids safe. And I think it's valuable for teachers to learn in an emergency situation. Just having that in the back of your head, how to respond, would be helpful. And the kids don't need to learn that. It's maybe
Yeah,
the teacher
and
can.
that's why I go back to that, about starting with, say, like a discussion, a tabletop, and then if you wanna move on to something bigger with, maybe it's not everybody, maybe it's only a few people, but that's something.
We did that few summers ago, and we did have, not live rounds, but blanks in the building. But again, it was voluntary, we had some teachers. But that, to answer your question, Kathy Hilton and Brenda Kirkley are the ones that, I can't remember who they worked with, but that's who headed that up. It was more an EMS or EMT type of
Yeah, it was
training.
part of the summer training.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had some staff and some students that came in and played the victim and those types of things. But again, it was more voluntary. But if we're gonna do something big, I would include my whole staff. I would want to include my whole staff, because whether they're comfortable or not, they need that training. If we're gonna do depending on how extensive it gets, then we can talk about including students or not including students. But if we're gonna do a training, then I would have all my staff there. And that would be the advantage of that November or February date in the afternoon.
Okay.
Because
Talking
they're
about trainings,
a captive audience, they'll be there. What's that?
talking about trainings, in the email I sent out, there is a link for some ICS training. It's free for anyone and everyone that wants to take it, those courses, and it would probably be beneficial to take for when we do have these tabletop exercises.
My problem on that, the first one's 2 hours, right? The 100. And my problem with that is requiring staff to do that and when and compensation and all that.
Well,
But that could be part of the training in terms of maybe an overview or
So-
something.
yeah,
So maybe we ought to look at this, Jason Grimace is the guy's name that worked with the college, and I talked to him a little bit about, would you be willing to come in and some other stuff for the community, and he may charge us something, but it doesn't hurt to ask. But he would be a really good one. I mean, I keep going back to that you don't really have a good way of explaining it, but at the college, you have a mixed group of people. You have probably the majority of them that don't have any ICS training, don't even know what ICS is. Hardly anybody's ever done any first response, and then you have some people that have done it for, years and years. So it's a difficult audience to teach to, but I think Jason really put that together with doing research and kind of knowledge of the school system and his background in law enforcement, and then having some of us up there to, I don't know, cover some other spots. So I can definitely reach out to him and see if maybe we can make something happen there.
Sure.
That sound good?
Yeah, and if the cost is reasonable, we're not afraid of cost. It just needs to be reasonable and affordable, but yeah.
Okay.
as far as the ICS trainings, I don't necessarily think that it's something everybody would need to
Right.
take.
Yeah, that's difficult.
Because it is a lot to digest for, just an overview really would suffice for people that aren't gonna be
Yeah,
part of,
and-
like in Dillon, we probably always be a joint command, it's not gonna be one person that sits in commander post cases. But I feel like department heads, people like that are the ones that need to know how the structure works to get the
Exactly.
full scope of it. Whereas, your staff are gonna be listening to you, basically.
Yeah, kind of the way that
You'll
you're
be the-
structured already.
You'll be the middleman for what they have to report back to the,
Right.
joint command center and all of that, so.
Yeah, and we've always looked at using like a unified command
That's the word.
scenario here, like if there was something that happened internally with the county, of course, it'd be our elected officials, probably myself, the sheriff, and the local fire chief. If it was a school, probably kind of the same scenario, minus the elected officials, which you guys on board. So nobody is stuck with that one decision, because I mean, you obviously have the knowledge of the school system where people that are gonna be involved in the response to something like this don't. So rather than, putting one IC in charge, it's just a better way to handle it. But Jason Grimace did, I think, a really good job of doing a very basic overview of the incident command system without having to sit down and take a, 1 hour, 2 hour online class. Joyce just did a bunch of that and she told me it sucked.
They're just long classes, and Rochelle knows, 'cause she's done a lot of them, and they don't have any videos, you have to read
I
everything.
know, that's their.
You have to take notes,
It's not very
because
engaging.
at the end, there's a quiz, you have to remember everything.
Wants to do that.
Yeah, and I did them, I mean, the ones that I needed to do, but I feel like I learned from them, so. I don't know, you can maybe do something with the teachers, like, you're gonna get a prize if you show me the certificate and you completed it, we're gonna give you a gift certificate to get some copies or something. But I understand the challenge with teachers to get them to do that, so.
Well, and if our EMS and fire people don't want to sit there in front of a computer and enter.
It's hard.
So it's just,
The first ones are long. Yeah.
so this is, I think I did this for the ambulance a while ago, but I do have a degree with a related area in geology, resource management. So a lot of this stuff I think is probably, well, it's way more detailed than what we want to get into here. I've been brought into the college and ambulance and other places to talk about some of this stuff, but I mean, just some real basic stuff.
And we
And
definitely
kind of
live in a
making the point
seismic
why you
zone.
don't run out of the building when the big earthquake hits.
There was a 3.9 over the weekend up in Sealy.
I see.
Did you see that?
Yep. So where do we live? We live in the Rocky Mountains. All these black circles are earthquakes that have happened, and this is between 1982 and 2002. So just a real glimpse of what happens. And all of our mountain ranges in here are pretty much all active faults, earthquake zones, slide zones, but that's where the population center is at. The biggest part of the population of the state of Montana is right around all the mountains. This is just some of the active faults that we have in this area. I mean, look at this Dillon area. Look at that Kalispell-Polson area. Why is it? It's just the terrain that we live in. Keep flicking through here. This is a nice big fault that's right up the Sweetwater up above us. And this U and D, well, that D part of it used to be even up there on the top on the skyline. That's the way the basin and range tectonics work around here. Any idea where this is at? Big Sheep. You see that right along there? Drive into Big Sheep and there's this that's an escarpment right there. That's probably, I don't remember how old it is, probably like 5,000-6,000 years old. Maybe I'm wrong on those dates. This other one's over in Madison. This is a big alluvial fan that came off some glaciers up above here in the Madison Range. It's probably, those are from the last ice age, 5,000-6,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. This right here is another big fault escarpment that came across here. That's probably, I don't know, I think it was dated 3,500 years ago, something like that. That's looking right behind us, the Blacktail Range. This is the one that really scares local geologists here. Because all this movement of about, I don't know, a little over 5,000 feet from the valley floor to right about 10 up here, this took place over about a 4 to 5 million year period. Seems like a long time, but
Not that long.
that scares the geologists because you're talking about some huge movements. Let's get that.
But also mountains in general form from compression of the crust. And then when the forces of compression are gone, the crust starts to subside, and that's kind of where you get the basin and range faulting. So there's a lot of it
Part
around
of
here.
it drops, the valley floor drops, and the mountain range usually goes more getting into the of what an earthquake does to a building.
Yeah.
So this is the one that happened over in Japan here a while ago. This is called liquefaction. When you have somewhat of a high groundwater table and it shakes and it disturbs those sediments, and sands and rocks and silts and everything in the valley bottom, and it turns it into, it liquefies it basically, and it pushes that water and silt and all that up. And if you have a building on it, of course, these may not have been constructed that well to begin with. We're not gonna have to worry about that around here. The old Hebgen Lake stuff and the formation of Quake Lake. This guy's explaining how much that water, when it shook that Hebgen Lake, kind of like a bathtub. And he's showing about how much water went over the top of that dam over there. So this was a like 7.2 quake, 1959. So I mean, the potential is here. A 7.2 was a huge earthquake. And at that time when that hit in 1959, what did we have? Maybe a third of the population or something, maybe not even that. So usually, they say if it's less than 3, you're not even gonna feel it. But then these quake increases in magnitude and severity, not exponentially,
It's kind of like a logarithmic.
logarithmically.
It's like a category 5 is a 10 times worse earthquake than a category 4. So it's not like it's just one notch up, it's 10 times more.
Exactly, thank you. So this is the one that we had in 2005. It was a 5.6, which was right south of Dillon here, kind of what this is the Hogs back right here. That's McCartney Mountain. And this is kind of that epicenter that happened at. The seismic waves from it, all the aftershocks that have happened in this area since, kind of the damage that it did. This was just, this is right across the street here. This is one of the old chimneys on UM Western. But here this is the one right across the street here. I think that's still standing, so. The old Mariana School. Well, what kind of construction are we looking at here?
Brick and mortar.
Brick and mortar, non-reinforced. This is one of the towers, of course, up at the college. State disaster and emergency services went in there and assisted them with doing a bunch of mitigation up at the college after this. It's what it looked like from the inside. You see, it's just this old Dillon soft brick stuck together with mortar. It's a bridge out at the interstate out by Glen that it broke, and this guy's got his finger right here where that through bolt is supposed to go through here, so it shifted it, kind of diagonally, however much that is, 4 inches or so. It takes a lot of force to move a bridge. This is just kind of the soil movement in it. Here we go back to that Hebgen Lake thing. Here's the escarpment that was this much movement from this level to this guy, this down here, and this is a person, of course. Here you go, they said 7.3 to 7.5. I think we know enough history about that. Kind of onto how it affects buildings. This is Helena after this one in 1935. And one of the geologists that I did some stuff with, Mike Stickney from Tech in Butte. So the best way to see what happened to Helena is if you just kind of look around town and you see like there's these beautiful old buildings, and then there's nothing in between them, or there's like a new style building in between them. It's because a lot of that was lost during this earthquake. I think this is like a school over at Manhattan or something from a different, maybe it was in Helena. But look what kind of construction we have here again. Non-reinforced masonry. What happened? This is probably the front door right here, the porch. The whole facade, the whole front of that building came down. Moving on, a lot worse here. I don't remember which one that one. This is a really good example here, Three Forks. See, this is the top floor or the ceiling here. And up here was a wall extension, or what do they call that? A parapet, is that right? Notice how that truss held up, but this top wall came down. Where did it end up? So the point that we're trying to make here is if you run out of the building, when the shaker happens, you're gonna get met with this. Another example of this ornamental, I don't know where that one's at, but this ornamental masonry work on it, it's brittle. There's no metal reinforcement in it. 1983, we felt this one over here pretty bad. We didn't suffer that much damage, except for the Lima gem. I think it broke one of the walls on the Lima gym. It didn't come down, but they couldn't occupy it after that. There was 2 fatalities during this. This was in Chalice. This rock wall came down on a couple little girls that were, I think, waiting or walking to school, I think is what it was. So you look at that type of, it's just masonry that's stuck together with mortar. And then what do we have? Oh, stick in it, pretty flexible, not a whole lot to worry about other than things falling on you. This is an old masonry house, has potential to come down. This is built 1937, I think it was. And this is reinforced concrete and it has expansion joints and stuff in it. And what do we think about your schools over there? I mean, single floor, masonry,
Walls weren't attached when we remodeled, so we had to.
some ties in there. I mean, it's fairly resilient.
Yeah.
But another good example or comparison rather, which we'll skim through these. Here it is again, but you don't really have any high masonry walls here, where the facade's really gonna come down on the front, but the way to respond is, what do they call it? Duck cover and hold on. Get under something, hold on to something, so nothing falls on you. You start looking at what the fire world refers to as Main Street America, built turn of the 1900s, late 1800s. It's all non-reinforced masonry. I'll show you what I mean by those high walls. This is the interiors of them. It's post and beam construction. These beams, you see set in a pocket. You can't really see it over there, but they set in a pocket in that masonry, so the masonry starts to pop out when they shake, and that wood infrastructure starts coming apart and collapsing, and you can have like a potential of the graphic shows that a little bit, popping out of this pocket here, and then it'll drop that the floors of the buildings down and pancake them. Then they catch on fire because of the gas and everything, and then you're left with that. quickly here, looking at some more of the stuff around Dillon. That's obviously not good. Then you look at these couple things in here. This, of course, on the courthouse, and then the buildings downtown. And what this is a kind of a mitigation tactic that they use, where they put a bolt through that masonry and kind of like a big washer on it, and they tie it into that wood framing. It's fairly effective. Buildings, you see these high walls up here. This is the old IGA building. If you get that thing shaking, this whole thing either goes over one way, goes through the ceiling, comes through the occupied spaces, or it comes off and it lands on the sidewalk. And if you're trying to run out of the building, then that's that. Not good. This is up at the college on the library. This is kind of suspended by a metal frame. Probably not good. This is a lot later up the build. There's obviously some steel reinforcement in that. These things are all non-reinforced. Then we go into this. We're kind of running out of time here.
The dam.
There's faults under that. Well, I think we're out of time here. But there's just a couple pieces in here about, it's really good if you know how to keep this in mind. If there's an earthquake, that the infrastructure that's out there that disrupt gas mains, power lines, the perfect combination for fires, other hazards. If you have the knowledge to shut your utilities off when something like this happens, when the fire department responds, this is a protocol to do so before we take entry to a home or a building, because we're going to go around, we're going to kill the power, we're going to kill any of the other utilities to it, shutting the gas off. But if we have a big earthquake, the fire departments are going to be very, very overwhelmed by that. So that's all I got.
Thanks, Tom.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Thank you, Tom and Rochelle, for putting this together.
Welcome.
Very informative.
So if you wanted to go over something like
Katie,
that
for
at
all
some
your-
point, Randy,
I'm here.
you can certainly do that.
Yeah, let me go back and see what those dates are. Yeah, see which direction I want to go.
Great. Sounds good.
What you got? I got it.
596.
Drop all that stuff.
1251.
Hi.
How are you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
But you want to,
We're hanging out.
yeah.
No boss.
Good.
Life is good.
Yeah,
That's right.
We're back
They're
in
parking all the
the
time now, right? Yeah, yeah.
We're not doing anything around there anymore,
guess
so.
possibly.
I know, right? Just hang out and watch TV and.
That's what my daughter goes, she's like, so you don't have a boss right now? I was like, not really, no. She's like, wow, Mom, that's really exciting. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
that's
what's
how
how
it
it
works
works
out.
Well, that's what
Like,
we do.
you know.
Doesn't really work that way.
We can't get away with that.
Keep going.
Yeah,
We get to find out, they'll remind us if it happens.
Get it done.
Joyce, is that your copy map?
It is, thank you for coming. Have a good shot.
Thank you.
It's my favorite.
I'll do what I can.
All right. Thank you
I'll call
guys.
you in a minute.
for
Hey, Katie.
everything.
you.
Hey, will you just send me that school thing?
Yes, I absolutely will.
Yeah.
I was hoping you could hear it, so I wanted to mention to you.
Oh.
It's good
Yeah.
material.
Okay. Yeah, and we do have a bunch of stuff, but I would definitely.
Yeah, it's always good to go over it. They've been working really hard at the state level at getting data, and I know Montana was working on the indoor quality project. So hopefully in the near future we'll have data and stuff as well.
Okay. And then, yeah, same thing.
So. My right is better. I just keep saying information is. We're actually supposed to be. That's done. Kids. I don't know what I. It's the crazy. Anyway.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Chuck.
But I never paid no attention.
Nelson just pulled out tonight, but Pipkin Dam thing came down, so. Yeah. All right, next on the agenda is resolution 2024-22, request for prosecutor assistance. Whereas Beaverhead County has requested prosecutor assistance, prosecution Chase Kitchen. On all of numbers.
Move to approve.
Yeah.
Second.
Second. We got somebody lined up, you know.
Well, this is the attorney general.
All in favor, signify by aye.
Alright.
Aye.
Alright.
Motion carries. Borrow your blue pen.
Why do you smile all day? I don't know how to do it. I need more. Yeah, she's a lot nicer than I am.
I never said that.
You didn't have to. Is that the end of this agenda item?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and pause it or stop it and we'll, yeah,